Imagine this for a moment. You're someone your community deeply respects. People speak well of you. They trust your character. Parents point to you as an example for their children. When your name is mentioned, it carries dignity. Now imagine that overnight, everything changes. Suddenly, people are whispering about you. They look at you differently. Conversations stop when you walk into the room. People who once defended you now question you. And the reason, they believe you did something that, in your society, is considered one of the most immoral things a person could ever do. You try to imagine explaining yourself, but before you even open your mouth, you can already see it in their eyes. They have made up their minds. Now imagine carrying that weight alone. That was the situation Maryam found herself in. But to really understand the weight of that moment, you have to know who Maryam was before the accusation. Her story was one that began even before she was born. Her mother had longed for a child for many years. When Allah finally blessed her with pregnancy, she made a sincere promise. She said that if Allah gave her a child, she would dedicate that child to serving in the temple. The child would grow up devoted to worship and service. When the baby was born, it turned out to be a girl, and the mother named her Maryam and still fulfilled her promise. Maryam was taken to the temple where she would grow up in an environment of worship and devotion. The scholars there chose Prophet Zachariah to look after her. Under his care, Maryam grew into the woman known for her sincerity and closeness to Allah. There are narrations that mention something unusual about her room. Sometimes Prophet Zachariah would enter and find provisions with her that he knew he had not brought. Fresh food that was not even in the season. When he asked her where it came from, her answer was simple. It is from Allah. Allah provides for whom He wills. That was the kind of faith Maryam carried. But then came the test that would shake her entire world. One day, while she was alone, the angel Jibril appeared before her in the form of a man. Naturally, she was afraid and immediately sought refuge in Allah. The angel then delivered a message that seemed impossible. Allah was going to bless her with a son. Maryam was shocked. She asked the obvious question: how could she have a child when no man had ever touched her? The answer was simple but profound. Allah said that this was easy for Him. The child would be a sign of humanity and a mercy. And so the miracle happened. Maryam became pregnant with Prophet Isa. But think about what that meant for her life. How could she explain this to people? A woman returning to her community with a child while unmarried was something that society would never accept. In their eyes, there was only one explanation. So Maryam withdrew from her community and went to a distant place. When the time came to give birth, she found herself alone, leaning against a date palm tree, overwhelmed by the weight of everything she was about to face. In that moment, she cried out words that revealed just how heavy the situation was. She wished she had died before this moment and been completely forgotten. But Allah did not abandon her. She was comforted and provided for. A stream appeared before her to drink from, and dates fell from the palm tree to give her strength. Soon after, a son was born. Eventually, Maryam returned to her people carrying the child. And exactly what she feared began to happen. People were shocked. The whisper started immediately. Then the accusation followed. Maryam, how could you do such a thing? Your father was a righteous man. Your mother was a chaste woman. The same community that once respected her now believed the worst about her. But instead of arguing, defending herself, or trying to convince everyone, Maryam did something remarkable. She stayed silent. Allah had instructed her not to speak. So she simply pointed to the baby in her arms. The people were confused. How could they speak to a newborn baby? At the time, something extraordinary happened. By the permission of Allah, the baby spoke. The child declared that it was a servant of Allah and a prophet. In that moment, the truth became undeniable. Allah Himself cleared Maryam's name. The very accusation that could have destroyed her reputation became the moment that revealed her honor. And that is where the lesson of this story becomes powerful for our lives today. Sometimes people misunderstand you. Sometimes they assume things about you without asking questions. They judge your character, based on what they see on the surface. In today's world, this can happen even faster. Rumors spread in seconds. People form opinions quickly, and once a narrative is created, it can feel impossible to change. Our instinct is usually to defend ourselves to everyone, to explain, to argue, to prove that we are right. But Maryam's story teaches something deeper. Not every accusation deserves your energy. Sometimes the truth does not need you to fight every battle. Sometimes dignity, patience, and trust in Allah are stronger than endless explanations. Maryam trusted that Allah knew the truth, even when people misunderstood her. And in the end, Allah cleared her name in a way no human being could have planned. Now, it is important to pause here. The lesson is not that you should always stay silent. Maryam's silence was a specific instruction from Allah in a situation where Allah Himself was going to intervene. That was a unique circumstance. It is not a blanket rule for your life. The real lesson is more practical than that. Not every battle deserves your energy, but some battles absolutely do. So if someone is spreading a lie that could cost you your job, stay silent and you may lose it. If a false narrative is reaching people who makes real decisions about your life, your family, or your future, you have every right and sometimes a responsibility to speak up clearly. The question is never simply whether to respond. The question is, who is listening? What is actually at stake? And will your response change anything that matters? A stranger who has made up their mind about you is a different situation from a colleague misrepresenting you to your employer. Gossip in a group chat is different from a false accusation in a formal setting. So before you react, ask yourself these 3 questions. Who is the audience? What are the real stakes? And what will speaking actually help? If the answer points towards speaking, speak with clarity and not desperation. If the answer points towards silence, let your character and consistency do the work over time. That is the fuller lesson Maryam's story points us towards. Not silence as a rule, but wisdom about when each choice serves you better.